2-year-old Arab Dutch harness horse gelding. He's had about 30 rides under saddle, about 60 days in training. And today what we're gonna work on is getting him to stretch down and out into the bit through bending. So this is his warm up. We just got on. And basically I would say the first step to this is that you wanna make sure that you have really good forward motion. So what I mean by that is if you put your leg on, you want to make sure that the horse goes forward really easily. If you feel like you don't have that, then you're probably not ready for this exercise, because you don't want to add anything in the front end really contact-wise until our horse has a motor going forward. So I'm going to ask him as a test, because we just got on, to kind of lengthen his stride in the walk. And I'm going to do that by squeezing with both calves. So I'm going to add a little bit of leg pressure. And I want him to lengthen that stride. And he did a little bit, but not quite as much as I would like. So I'm going to give him a little tap with the whip as a reinforcement of my leg aid. And at this point, I'm not really adding any kind of contact with the rein. I just want to make sure he's going forward well. So I'm going to test that out again. I'm just going to add a little squeeze. That time his reaction was better. His stride got longer. So before you start adding any kind of contact, that would be the first thing that I work on. And we're going to do it a little bit both ways. Now, in the real world, you might do this as a warm-up for 10 to 15 minutes, but because we're creating a video, we're going to shorten that process a little bit just so we can show you all the things. So we're going to do the same thing going this way. I'm just going to ask him to take a little bit longer stride and make sure that he's moving forward off of my leg. And that was a good response on his part. So when I start picking him up, what I would like for him to do is kind of what he's already doing, stretch down and out. And I'm going to kind of ask him to bend a little bit. So I'm going to put my inside calf on. I'm going to use a little bit of my inside rein to half out. And then when I feel him fill up my outside rein, which means that it's going to change from what it is right now, which is like nothing, right? 0 pounds of pressure, to 5 pounds of pressure. Then I'm going to half on the outside rein, kind of keep all of his energy in one cycle, one circle, or one wave. Otherwise, what you find sometimes, especially on a horse that's this young and just learning, is if I go to put my inside leg on, their shoulder will pop out, so we've lost that energy from the outside shoulder. So I want to ask him for a little bit more bend. I'm going to sit on my inside seat bone a little bit. Yeah, now that to me was a really good response on his part. He stepped over into that shoulder and then he stretched down. This is something that he's just learning. He understands how to walk, trot, canter, and how to accept contact, and kind of the basics of turning, stopping, but not really does he understand how to bend yet. And so that's something that we've been working on this week. So he's doing it fairly proficiently this way. Now if I was doing it to truly warm up, I might do it another 5 to 10 minutes. But I'm going to switch directions and try it the other way just to test it out. And even when you're changing directions, you want to start the idea of this too. So keeping him between your legs and your reins and asking for a baby bend or a little idea of a bend so that you're not just steering him like this where his shoulder pops out, but that you're asking his whole body to move. And the other exercise that you might think about trying is taking your horse on a circle. We're gonna ask them to take a step sideways. Make a slightly larger circle. Yep. And he stopped forward motion a little bit. You can tell his tail started swishing. So I put my leg on, and his response, instead of moving sideways, was to stop forward motion. That's why forward motion is your base layer. If you don't have that, then you don't have much of anything. So I'm gonna ask him to come back in on the circle. I'm gonna use my outside rein and ask for a little bend to the outside. And then ask him to take a step in off of my outside leg. And I'm gonna kind of keep on asking until I feel like he is truly between my legs and reins, which in that moment he felt like he was, so I'm gonna give. And then I'm gonna ask him to take another step back out. Good. Now I'm gonna move out of this circle. I'm gonna test and see if on a long side these aids still work. So I'm gonna ask him for a baby leg yield. I'm gonna take him down the wall on the quarter line. And I'm gonna bend onto the quarter line and then kind of ask him to take a few steps over towards the wall. And I feel like that's a pretty good starting point. This is his first week of kind of trying to learn this. So I'm fairly happy with that. There was something interesting he wanted to smell. We're gonna do it one more time, then we're gonna switch directions. Same thing, I'm pretty happy with that. So he's moving forward well, he's moving away from my inside leg well, and he's maintaining bend in this longer lower frame. So now we're gonna come across the middle and switch direction. We're also gonna work on the idea of changing our bend. If he shortens his neck, I'm gonna shorten my reins so that my contact stays the same. If he offers to lengthen his neck, which is different than pulling, then I'm going to allow him to lengthen his neck. If he pulls, then I'm not going to allow him to lengthen his neck. So same thing this way, I'm gonna put my inside leg on, ask him to take a few steps sideways. I feel like that was less successful in the other direction. I'm gonna switch my whip. It was a little bit sticky against my inside leg, so we're gonna try that again. That was much better. So that is how I would kind of start the idea of bending and having a better idea of contact with the horse if they're a young horse or if they're a horse that maybe has never learned how to move into the contact. So I have another horse here who is a former main ring Arab horse, and he has the opposite problem where he likes to really pull his chin to his chest, and we're gonna make some videos of him as well, because it is a skill that the horses have to be able to learn, which is to move out and into the contact versus coming back from your hands into their own body. So I hope you guys stick around. Please subscribe to the Patreon channel. There's gonna be a lot more content coming up, and have a great weekend.